you know that there are people right now trying to kill you? Unfortunately, it's true, but to explain how or why, I'm gonna have to take us on a little bit of a journey. One that starts with a very arbitrary place. Let's go with, Alright, that's an easy one. We're gonna go to the place where I used to get my oil changed back in the day. Okay, stick with me for a moment and I'm gonna prove that they want you dead. But first, I'm gonna point the camera at something just totally random. Let's go with these vacuum cleaners and this trash bin in the background. Okay. I'd like to ask that for 60 seconds, that's all I ask, you stop eating, drinking, smoking, anything, just quit doing the dishes, just focus on this video for a moment. Now, I'm gonna cut the music, and let's spend 10 seconds just looking at this vacuum and these trash bins. I just want you to think about what you see, okay? Alright, cool. Hold on to that. Now, I want you to pretend that you are an alien, trying to figure out what human civilization is all about. What conclusions can you draw about humanity, or even just life in general, from these trash bins and this vacuum? Let's go for 20 seconds this time. Alright, what do you got? Actually, it's really not important. You don't have to tell me if you don't want to. This isn't supposed to be comment bait. For me, I stare at this scene and I think about how much of my life has been spent worrying about body hair. How I've always been so obsessed with keeping every inch of my skin clean shaven, and how I have absolutely zero evidence that all that effort has ever done anything to improve my life in any way other than making sweatpants a bit comfier. Why did a vacuum cleaner and some trash cans make me think about that? I really don't know. I guess it has something to do with cleanliness and how disposal of waste usually means making something else dirtier to make one thing cleaner, like hair getting stuck in the drain. But really, my brain just did that. Hopefully, if I'm right about humanity, your brain did something similar. Maybe you thought about how cars tend to be a representation of their owners' personalities, or how silly it is that people can be convinced to pay for air. Or maybe you were thinking something really mundane, like it makes sense to put the trash cans right next to the vacuum, that probably is really convenient to clean. Or maybe, just maybe, you were thinking something a bit more meta about how you can't remember the last time that you just sat there and focused on something totally mundane and boring for 60 seconds. Let's cut the shot and turn the music back on. I'm getting pretty fucking bored of this scene too. What we just did together was we created art. Yeah, those 30 seconds of thought probably weren't very interesting or profound. I doubt anyone's gonna hang those thoughts up on a wall or play them over the stereo while they cry after a breakup, but nonetheless, we created art. Some of you might think that's the stupidest, most patronizing thing that you've heard all week, but it's true. I'm not gonna try to define what is and isn't art in anything less than a 5-hour-long video, but for now, what we did was we took a small piece of the world, some random thing we observed, and we gave it some kind of meaning. Even if that meaning is petty and insignificant and nobody else can see it, we turned that vacuum and those trash cans into something that they've never been before, all by just shutting up, locking in for 30 seconds, and letting our brains do what they naturally do when there isn't anything else distracting us. We pretty much all tend to associate art with effort. You need to learn how to paint or sing or program or write or film. You need to think of a really beautiful idea, whatever. All that stuff is great, and learning skills like that is an incredibly rewarding use of your limited time, but it's not what makes you an artist. What makes you an artist is that you have your own mind, and it's different from anybody else's, and it tells you things that nobody else's mind has ever told them. Maybe you'd prefer to just call that sentience, but I call it being an artist. What we just did, staring at that boring scene for 30 seconds, that's something that we're being trained day in and day out to avoid doing at all costs. Efficiency is the name of the game for the modern human. We want fast food, fast entertainment, and fast fun. We want to cut out loading screens and video buffering, red lights, and long lines. This convenience-oriented culture is one that we're all getting sick of. Everyone I know misses the days when they had time to go on long walks and Minecraft all-nighters, when they weren't expected to constantly be ready to respond to messages from anyone in their life at a moment's notice, and when practicing guitar for half of the day felt like a good use of their time. We all know that convenience is making us a bit stupider, but personally, I'm sick of having this whole dilemma framed as a want. It's not that we want quick dopamine, it's that nowadays it's either quick dopamine or no dopamine at all. In 2025, we work long, tedious hours for people that don't really need us, and when we get home, we're so exhausted and stressed out that we really can't handle much more besides just scrolling shorts on our phone, listening to music that an algorithm suggests, and eating whatever's convenient. We invented alarm clocks, and suddenly people had no excuse to not be at work on time. We invented coffee, and suddenly people had no excuse to sleep in. We invented smartphones, and suddenly people had no excuse to not answer when their boss calls them to ask them to pick up a shift. We invented TikTok, and suddenly people had no excuse to spend a few hours really immersing themselves in a film or a book or a vacuum and some trash cans, whatever. The modern human can get their dopamine fix while they're on the toilet, kill two birds with one stone, and be more efficient with their time, without having to dedicate mental resources to anything other than just making rent and keeping their job. So in this brave new world, where your boss expects you to smile at every customer and always clock in and out exactly on time, why on earth would you stare at a boring old vacuum cleaner for 30 seconds when you could just watch a quick TikTok during your bathroom break and get back to working or cooking or cleaning or exercising or any of those other things that are more important than vacuum cleaner introspection? We don't want YouTubers that talk at a mile a minute, dumping loads of information on us faster than we can really internalize it. It's just that this society that's been forced upon us necessitates efficiency, and more often than not, that efficiency comes at the cost of not having any deep relationships with any of the things that we enjoy. So what happens when we do start wanting faster YouTubers? When, even in this world where entertainment is always within arm's reach, we start wanting it to be even faster? Put bluntly, what happens when we're all so brain-rotted that we actually want the Subway Surfers footage on the side of the screen, and we want to watch a YouTube video while we play the games that we allegedly love? What happens when we just need background noise during chores, or else we start thinking about suicide? That's when we surrender our attention spans. And for a larger and larger portion of humanity, that's already happened. Every one of us is having our attention spans damaged every single day. That's why our culture, despite much protest, has embraced quote-unquote AI art so thoroughly. Let's talk briefly about why AI art doesn't count as art, even though staring at a vacuum cleaner and thinking for 30 seconds does. I know my audience. You already agree with me, you've already seen plenty of other YouTubers say most of what I'm about to say, and you already hope to never see another piece of AI art in your life, but I'm going somewhere a bit deeper with this video, and we've got to get this out of the way. For this, we're going to talk about camera movement. Maybe it's just because I'm working with cameras all day, but every time I see a video that's trying to hide the fact that it's AI generated, the camera movement is what gives it away. It's this smooth, sweeping camera movement that you see constantly in AI video that just hits this uncanny valley effect for me. See, a camera move like this is a totally valid artistic decision to make. They're great for establishing shots, especially for media focusing on a single subject, like a pundit show, or a commercial showing a happy couple discussing the convenience of pizza delivery. You could use them to convey excitement as a character's being swept up in the emotions of a hard-fought personal victory, being cheered on by the folks around them. But all of these applications for, let's call them swelling pans, are artistic decisions. Like all camera moves, a swelling pan isn't just used willy-nilly, its usage is based on the context of the subject and the scene and the pacing of the surrounding shots and so many other things. That context simply can't exist for an AI. There isn't enough computational power to capture everything that actually goes into such a seemingly simple decision. Now, using a camera move in a thoughtless way isn't what stops AI video from being art. Instead, it's the fact that the algorithm cannot possibly understand the emotions that subtle camera movements invoke. Whether you realize it or not, it's impossible to point a camera at something without your emotions projecting themselves onto the subject. Just like it's impossible to stare at a vacuum cleaner and some trash cans without projecting your emotions onto them. If I'm doing a shot where I need to get a friend to operate the camera for me, no matter how detailed my instructions are, the footage is ultimately going to be a reflection of the camera person as much as it is a reflection of me. What a camera operator feels will permanently be etched into every bit of footage that they shoot, and there simply isn't any way around that. Try it now, I'm serious. Try taking a photo of a familiar object or person near you and just stare at it for a moment. Stare at it and tell me that you don't see that photo differently than anybody else in the world would. Odds are good that you have a camera within arm's reach at this exact moment, so go for it, be an artist. My only rule is that you have to think, at least for a second, before you hit the shutter button. I'll wait. Here, you do it too. Just point the camera at something random out here, okay? What you just did in those 10 short seconds required more computational energy on the part of your mind than anything that an LLM will ever be able to replicate. That photo, whatever it is a better representation of some small piece of the human experience than anything that any image generation program will ever produce. The same is true for any artistic expression. Playing 2 notes on a guitar, or whistling a song that you've heard on the radio, writing a single sentence, drawing a picture, even just picking your nose. Even if AI was able to recreate each of these things perfectly, there simply is not enough computational power in the world for any of it to be an actual reflection of an experience. This is the difference. I would argue that, in an admittedly pedantic way, everything that a human being does is art. Every thought that a human has is art. Everything a human feels is art. Eating your 500th Arby's meal might not be very good art, but it is art, because there's a unique depth to it, in the exact same way that there's a unique depth to the purely pragmatic implementation of those trash bins next to the vacuum cleaner. Even the lowest, most depraved depths of human thought and behavior, racism, murder, subjugation, they all come from a uniquely human place that an AI could never truly capture. It doesn't mean that those things are good or magical or worth preserving, but they are, in a grotesque and uncomfortable way, art. Even being an AI tech bro is a form of art. More on that later. If we ever invent a sentient mind, like a man-made version of a human brain, it needs to be treated with respect and empathy, but that technology, the technology behind a fictional character like Data from Star Trek, will not share a single thread of technological heritage with the generative AI that plagues our culture today. The fact that we even call this stuff AI instead of a predictive algorithm is all just marketing fluff. It's a downright misnomer and an insult to all those great sci-fi writers who gave us such ambitious dreams, but I digress. If you really stop and smell the roses of the art that you engage with, whether that art is digital, interactive, linear, physical, commercial, whatever, you will feel the humanity that exists within it. I'm trying desperately to avoid using words like soul or essence here, but art makes us ask questions about the things it portrays and the ways that the artist chose to portray them. And with AI art, there is no question. You already know the answer. Something that the AI was trained on had some sort of similar portrayal, and that's it, and that's all it could ever be. Somebody writing a prompt for an AI, it'd be hypocritical of me to say that that act isn't art. It's mediocre art, but it's art. The image that the AI spits out, on the other hand, that's nothing but math, a cold, hard output lacking in any vision or intentionality and revealing no truths about anything. Quality isn't what separates art from non-art. It's something intangible, but ever-present. I have to give in on this one. There's simply no better way to describe it than soul. And soul is something that you can feel inside of everything that every human has ever done. Soul is the thing that makes life worth preserving. Without any soul, life is meaningless. You may as well be dead. So why, oh why, do the racists and the zoomers love this AI art bullshit so much?
Oh, great. How incredible.
Nobody sings lyrics like that with those kind of lyrics.
No.
It's gangster rap lyrics with an incredible voice. AI is fucking scary, man.
Yeah.
That's so good.
It's been brought to my attention that for a while now, Joe Rogan has been absolutely glazing these AI songs, mostly covers of rap songs, appropriating the lyrics into a 1960s soul style that feels inherently racist, or at the very least, imperialist. I don't know, something about him not caring about these rap lyrics until an AI has wrapped them up in a rose-tinted package of cultural artifice that separates them from the actual systemic issues that created gangster rap in the first place is, well, it's telling. It's the same energy as those people who insist that Eminem is the greatest rapper of all time, all while not being familiar with a single other piece of hip-hop history since Rapper's Delight back in 1979. Okay, so why am I immediately talking about race? It's because art is inherently political. While, yes, I've been arguing that everything every human has ever done, rich or poor, is art, there's a big difference in how the lower class is always engaged with art, as opposed to the ruling class. This isn't even just a capitalism thing either, it's simply the nature of power. Planned art, meaning art that was made with intentionality rather than just random human thought and action, like poetry and music and stuff, is almost always coming from the perspective of the non-ruling class. We more or less grade the art that we consume on how well it captures some part of our experience here on Earth. We prefer to listen to songs that are relatable and raw, and we can just tell when something gets corporate. It stops feeling like it's being made for us and starts feeling like it was made to sell to us. That's the difference between classic Simpsons and modern Simpsons. The former feels like it was made by folks that grew up in pretty similar conditions to most Americans. The latter feels like it was made by people whose job was just to sell you more Simpsons. Or hell, Johnny Cash versus Jason Aldean, or the fancy light guy. God, it's not that classic country fans hate snare drums. It's that they hate how sterile, safe, and corporate modern mainstream country music is. If art is inherently reflective of the conditions that the artist lives in, and 99.9% of people live in conditions that are so incredibly far removed from those of the ruling class, then yeah, it starts to make sense that rich assholes like Joe Rogan and Elon Musk don't really care about art the same way that struggling people do. Long story short, rich, racist, reactionary, and ruling class people are the ones who made those blues artists so blue in the first place, and there's a similar truth behind hip-hop, jazz, impressionism, drama, comedy, horror, abstract art, allegorical stories like Alice in Wonderland, even TV, film, and video games, some of the most expensive mediums to create in. It all started with people who didn't know if they were going to make rent or not, and certainly didn't have any political power. Art empowers the lower class. It always has, and it always will. Why do you think protest chants are always done to a rhythm? No justice, no peace, fuck them racist-ass police. So, it stands to reason that the ruling class, reactionary folks who want to protect their power, benefit from the lower class being less artistically engaged. I think it's plain to see that the long, grueling workdays, the gutting of our education system, the elimination of our third spaces, all serve to keep us too tired, uneducated, and isolated to revolt. But there's one more pillar of revolution that isn't contingent on those things. Inspiration. By destroying the lower class's relationship with art, they're attempting to deny us the inspiration that it takes to start a revolution. Joe Rogan, like all humans, exists as an artful creature. He thinks, he feels, he expresses, just like you or me, but as a rich white man living without a care in the world, he can't see the value in human artistry, and so he thinks racist AI slop renditions of rap music are great. He's down to shill for AI left, right, and center on his show. He's down to cut out the part of his brain that can recognize human soul when he sees it, and he knows that if his fan base becomes brain rotted in the same way, they'll watch him forever. Not me. If the inherently artistic soul within all human beings is what makes life so special in the first place, then Joe Rogan is already dead. He was down to kill himself live on YouTube because, like Elon and Zuckerberg and Bezos and the White House and ICE and all these other figures and groups that happily shove algorithms and generative AI down our throats, like all rich people trying to protect their power, they're down to cut out their own humanity, if it means that they can also cut out the humanity of those that they rule over. Whichever person at the DHS posted those awful images of deportation victims rendered in a Studio Ghibli style, whoever at Coca-Cola decided to AI generate parts of their advertisement videos, whoever on Trump's team decided to render him Apocalypse Now style raining napalm down on Chicago, and Elon trying to fuck Grok, all of these people are dead. They happily killed themselves so that you would die too. They're zombies. Walking the earth, creating our laws, choosing who does and doesn't get kidnapped and sent to prison, and they want you to kill yourself too. They're trying to kill you by working you so long that you start wanting your YouTubers to talk faster. They're trying to kill you by making you so inattentive that you start wanting Subway Surfers footage on the side of the screen. They're trying to kill you by making you so cynical that you stop caring if the art that you consume holds any truths about the human experience. They're trying to kill you by making you so lonely that you start letting their AIs act as your therapists and friends. They're trying to kill you by making you so stupid that you need to ask AI how to tell if milk is spoiled. They're trying to kill you so that you can't create the art that'll inspire their beheadings. They've killed some of your friends, they've killed your parents, they're getting pretty close to killing your children, and every day that you avoid staring at a vacuum and some trash bins for 30 seconds and just thinking about stuff, they drive their knife further and further into your chest. So I'm not going to do the YouTuber thing and tell you to watch another one of my videos after this one. Put your phone down, stop listening to music, stop working, stop being productive, go take a bath with the lights out, or take a walk without listening to music, or go stare at something boring and see what your brain turns it into. Go be an artist. You can either do that, or you can go ahead and skip to the next video, dispassionately clutch the knife in your chest, and guide their hand as they push it that little bit deeper towards your heart. The difference between humans and AI is that humans think. So ask yourself, would you rather be a human, or have they already killed you too? Oh my god, I just did the first take and I rambled for 10 minutes. Let me just be fast about this. Have to be quiet, wife asleep on other side of wall. Started skateboarding. Probably gonna be a video about that in the future. Been rehabilitated for my vertigo. Really happy with this video. Couldn't think of a better way to end the year. However, that said, I might have one more surprise for you guys by the end of the year. At which point I went on to thank my patrons for about 5 minutes, which took up a massive chunk of time. Point being, y'all are the reason I've been able to push my format so much this year and try so many new things with what I'm doing here, and I think grow as a creator in some really substantial ways. And that thanks goes especially to the patrons who are donating $10 or more monthly, such as 3 Dart Blade, Ada, Alex, All Hail Eris, Asiobatoon, Atheist, Autumn Hawk, Ave Lunum, Bridget G, Kylie Carmine, Cass Carton, Charlotte, Chloe R, Daniel McDonald, Dante Lewis, Darius Fazier, Dearest Engel. That does say Engel, not Angel. Okay. Demise, Disponia, Edelsis, Ekachu, Emma Roberts, Erday, Arday. It says Arday. Fabiano, Field Number 5, George Rosenbaum, Grease Beef, Guybrush, Gwen T, Hazel the dog, the cooler one, Hidden Dip, Huntikar, I Eat Teeth, Emmy, Eon Lester, Ira Evitz, Isa, Jank Dinkins, Joby, Cat Kai, Kelly, Kay Luger, Kodiak Bricks, Lake, Laura M., Liz the Strange, Luke Chambers, Maddie Tourmaline, Max Bean, Melody, Metamaniac, Mubi, Mia Maple, Mentius Miranda, Molly, Nayplays, Neolunatics, Neris, Neurofilter, Nicole, Nocturnal Musings, One-Eyed Wiley, Rio, Rose Like the Flower, Scott Edwards, Sean Hamilton, Shay Theus, Sophia Lovelace, Stormy, Summer Celine, Garnet Midnight, Swatchbox, Sweet Meat, The Narcissist Cookbook, Tired Puppy Ashley, Violet Bloom, Yara 12, Zodi Pupper, Almost Dead Again, David Kaiser, Cortisol, Lena Lovelace, Kay, Boya, and Hazel Pup. Again, not gonna rant for 10 minutes like I did last time I tried to record this. But I'm hoping that after this little surprise, I hopefully will have done for you guys by the end of the year. We'll see about that. I'm going to end up making a sort of retrospective about this year. I think this was a really important year for me creatively, where I learned a lot, grew a lot, whatever. Really happy with every video I've made this year in a way that I've never been before. Normally I hate every video like a week after it goes live. This time I couldn't be happier with every single thing I've made. On that note, I will either see you guys one more time this year, or I will see you hopefully pretty early next year. Oh, here's the sign I made for the fake AI footage. This 97-year-old grandmother still makes AI slap the old-fashioned way. Anyways, y'all have a good one. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you so much for supporting me.